Hey guys, it's Mathel here once again, and I've got the last video for the Ice Spear Deadeye. Just doing a bit more endgame and talking a bit more about the finalization of the character. So I did end up playing it for a full week, so 7 days, which is kinda rare for me. Well, not quite 7 days, 6 days. Kinda rare for me to be on a character for that long, especially since I was playing like 10 hours a day, but I was having a lot of fun with the Ice Spear. The chains and the shatters are very satisfying, the playstyle is pretty damn cool, and it's nice having such a powerful self-cast character for a change. I think it will be kind of a self-cast meta, or at least, for me, I can't feel justified making so many other different types of characters with spells compared to self-cast when there is so much power in the self-cast at the moment. By all means, you can still do totems and casts on crits and whatever, but the really big buff is to the self-cast, and I think just about any spell can be made to shine quite well right now, and you're going to see some very ridiculous builds this league. Not necessarily from me, I'll put out some okay builds, but the high end of stuff that you're going to see showcased is going to be ridiculous. There is a lot of power creep in this patch and in the crafting, and honestly, it's going to make things a bit over the top, in my opinion. In any case, that's not too bad, just a bunch of fun for everyone. Back to our character. Ice Spear has been probably one of the nicest starters I've ever done. I did almost hit 95 by the end of this character, and it took on all endgame content. Since last video, I picked up a 6-link, so I just bought a 6-link base, which was, I think, 40C 6-link base, and then just used greed essences to hit it with a life roll and then a spell suppress roll. Anything beyond that was honestly not very important, and then put life as extra energy shield on it once again through the craft, and that's what gives us all of our mana sustain. So if you're playing the occultist version or the Deadeye version and you're having troubles with mana, you should just be able to fix all of your mana problems with Eldritch Battery and some life as extra energy shield on your chest. You can get a bit more energy shield throughout your gear, and it will help you sustain, because even with my 6-link and its heavy costs, if I'm going to be pressing Hatred to keep up our buff, and then chain casting for a long time, I can run out of energy shield, but you can also fix that by using an energy leech support, which I wasn't this entire time, because it wasn't a big enough issue. So my 6th link in the end was like hypothermia, and I was mapping with chain full time. I did enjoy the extra couple of chains from the chain support, so I thought that was worth using for mapping purposes. Otherwise, I think the character on a 5-link at my slight bit of fine-tuning and min-max had like 5 million DPS. On a 6-link, we were up to 7 to 8 million, something like that. I think for sure if you min-maxed, you could hit over 10 million. And if you started investing like 50 exalts and got all the best awakened gems and good weapons, gear, everything, you could actually hit like 20 to 30 mil on Ice Spear, and it would become pretty ridiculous. But that's the very high end, and I stopped trying to upgrade my gear and fine-tune when everything was fine at like 5 to 7 million. So it's a very successful playstyle and character. I really enjoyed the ability to self-cast the mark and have that up permanently, and the new Mark Mastery to give yourself frenzy charges is super nice. So speccing into that 4th frenzy just gave us a lot of extra cast speed. All these bosses honestly felt a bit undertuned at the end, so I did do Searing Exarch and Eater of Worlds, and the other two as a second time around when they're much thicker and tankier, and they're the level 83 versions, and I think they're still pretty undertuned. Like, I kind of tanked a lot of their mechanics, and for the most part it didn't hurt very much when the only defense I have is a bunch of evasion and spell suppress, but they're like melee hits when they actually got through my evasion just didn't seem to hit that hard, and spell suppress is honestly just overpowered, since for any spell it's just going to cut it in half basically. Cirrus died pretty quickly, pretty easily. It's always Awakening 8, and then this is my first ever Elderslayers 4-way Maven invite, and I did them all at once, so I unleashed all of them at once just for the added challenge, because I didn't think it was going to be particularly challenging otherwise. It's a bit of a mess to start with because they are all using their like special abilities and shit early on. Afterwards, it tapers off and they hardly do anything. If you're just doing two at a time, I think this one should be pretty simple, honestly. And yeah, it just depends on your character in general, but most of these aren't too bad at this stage of the game. Did then, of course, also do Maven and the Feared, and, well, took on all endgame content. I did a bunch of four-ways, the Shaper Guardians and Elder Guardians and Sheila, Breachstone and Ubertziri and Cortex. Cortex felt like it was nerfed, and the other thing that I felt about the game right now is some ground degens felt like they were doing more damage than they should be for some reason, but maybe that's my character. There were just a few ground degens from some bosses and some certain mob types that just felt like they were hitting or just degenning way faster than I ever remember before. Maybe that's just some anecdotal evidence. But DPS on Maven's pretty damn solid and was an easy enough fight, and Sniper's Mark and Chain make things quite smooth for the brain phase. And then the Feared itself, I did completely fuck up. I did die a few times to a couple of things, and I think it's fully possible deathless if you played it a bit better. But yeah, just got the last little bit where I finish off Chula and the Synthete dude, and not a particularly rewarding set of loot afterwards. I did make most of my money for this character just from random occurrences, happenings, and not really from the boss drops. And I do want to really quickly go over what my Atlas looks like and how I've made most of my money so far. So real quickly, like, character's level 94, I was on the way to 95 and then started doing a bunch of bossing, and the Feared took a bunch of my XP, but just wanted to like go over the refined gear that I've got and how I've got money at this stage of the game. So not too much has really changed. Like, I bought this scepter for 50C early on, and you know, maybe you can get similar, but ultimately there's like a million different one-hand weapons out there that are pretty comparable, and then a fractured like cold here, and then just rolling with some essences, pretty easy. Lots and lots of +1 amulets out there. You can do a lot better these days, and I ended up taking long shot for a bit of extra proj speed, and just I think that's the biggest damage I can get from the annoyance if we're at range. And then tried to min-max my implicits a bit, so I got penetrates cold here, and got the cold leech on these gloves. Managed to hit strike skills, target one additional nearby enemy. It's too valuable to roll over, does nothing for us, but ideally you can get unnerved there, which would be an extra 10% more damage, so that's pretty fucking huge, which should be easy to get. And then just something here, doesn't really matter. Like I said, just grabbed a chest and hit it with greed essences, and all we needed was the extra spell suppress roll, so it shouldn't take too long, and then got Hatred does extra aura effect, so a little bit of extra damage there. And then otherwise, gear hasn't really changed otherwise. Spell Echo, Hypothermia, GMP, crit damage, Ice Spear, and Cold Pen is the ended links, and using Chain instead of Hypothermia for most of the clear most of the time. So currently my Atlas looks something like this. I've done a bunch of changing and chopping just as I'm doing content and as I'm like shifting focus on things. So originally I did start out doing the Betrayal and all of the Betrayal nodes and all of the Expedition nodes. Betrayal was just mostly there to get unveils up quickly, and then I spec'd out of it after doing one Mastermind. Didn't really feel worth continuing with it. Expedition has been great for me the entire time because I really enjoy Expedition and doing the ROG for crafting items. And then I tried to experiment with Abyss using all of these Abyss nodes and these Abyss nodes here, and I think I had these as well because I really wanted to see if I can get some good 5 or 6 prop jewels. Saw not that many, and it was actually really frustrating that like 1 in 2 abysses that I was popping was in Abyssal Depths, which doesn't interact with this at all. So it's not really worth. I kind of unspec'd out of a bit of it, and I'll unspec out of the rest eventually. But I did the science around this, and I don't think it's particularly worth, unless you are doing the depths and care about those, and really care about the XP from Abyss. I think it was kind of shit, so don't really bother looking into that. Otherwise, I was speccing into Eater of Worlds as I was trying to proc him, and Eater of Worlds Altar while I was trying to proc that. pretty worthwhile, and these altars during the progression can actually be a good source of money. I had a few maps where I was just choosing scarabs for like the mobs that were influenced and stuff, and I got like 40 scarabs for the entire map, and it can just actually rain some serious currency. I took Cirrus over here while I was doing all of my end game. I took Maven over here while I was doing all of my end game. This over here is, I think, just a permanent fixture for me. I'll probably take that as well, as long as my characters are up to it. I only just now spec'd into Shrine stuff to start testing it out. Otherwise, I took all the synthesis and I took all the what do you call them, Searing Exarch, and these nodes down here while I was progressing Searing Exarch. Basically, maps just feel super juiced, and there's so much shit just constantly happening in your maps with the Atlas stuff that it's hard not to make money. I've made like 5 or 6 just raw Exalt drops in the past couple days in my tier 14 to 16 maps. Lots and lots of scarabs, and if I tried to sell some of them, it'd be worth a lot. Otherwise, what else happened? I went into a harvest and turned a unique jewel into another unique jewel, got an unnatural instinct that was worth 6 exalts. I've made lots of little sales while mapping, 40 to 80C and 1 exalt, that sort of thing. Then Rog crafted a couple of items, so this bow here is probably the best bow out there on the market at the moment. This came initially from Rog, and then I just decided to prefix cannot be changed and unveil and hit some good stuff. But it's pretty damn easy to just go into your Rog and try and get triple Ellie onto swords, bows, whatever the fuck. And bows right now are a pretty high-end DPS item with some rogging. So this one's a bit bigger than the previous one, but I made another one that sold for 6 exalts, and I also picked up a abyssal belt, Stygian belt, that was worth 8 exalts and sold it for that. Just picked it up, didn't even craft it. It identified with 50 Ellie damage attacks, 90 life, 50 strength, 60 mana, 30 res, and then a craftable suffix. So it was a pretty big belt, and yeah. And that's where most of my money has come from, and I've actually already spent some of it just on trying to do the end game, because actually completing a bunch of the end game does cost money. So we're talking Cortex, Chiula, even the invitations themselves are like 25C a piece. And then I filled out all of these, and yeah, overall had a lot of fun doing the end game for the first time, the new Atlas, and playing this character, our Deadeye Ice Spear self-caster. So I hope you guys are having equally as much fun. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.